Live, okay, bring this up. I don't know what you've done here. Okay, slideshow. The beginning.
It says July 2nd.
Clicker is good to go.
So Jimmy, I gotta put on the line 5, do all this stuff, and it's so good. You're on YouTube right now, so you're looking.
Mission accomplished.
I YouTube.
3, 2, 1. And you're on Facebook.
All righty. Welcome everybody to the place in Fallbrook. Standing room only for those of you who aren't here right now. It's packed. No, but it's a great little home church. If you ever get a chance to visit us, I recommend it. Small and intimate, but more like a family. Today, what I'm going to do is continue on a sermon from earlier last year. Actually, it was called Faith Part 1. So this is Part 2. So we'll go ahead and get into it. We'll just kind of do a recap. Last time I had looked up the definition of faith, and here are some of the definitions. Allegiance to duty or a person, belief and trust in and loyalty to God, and then something that is believed, especially with strong conviction. And so there's a few definitions there, but I believe with our walk with Jesus, faith is more of the third definition there, something that is believed, especially with strong conviction. And so I kind of would like to sit there and recap that and go over that. We'll go ahead and define Apostle Paul's definition of faith. He says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it the elders obtain a good testimony. I won't continue on into the rest of that verse, but the question is, what is substance? As we see up there, he says, faith is a substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Now, substance, we like to think of generally tangible things, right? Tangible things that we can touch on, but faith is a little bit different because a substance is not, visibly seen. It's more tied to a belief. It's probably more tied to our spirit and our mind and our thinking than it is the physical, what we can feel, touch. Although faith in action can reveal tangible physical things that happen in real life as well. So substance, same thing, recap from last time, the basic element from which something can be developed, the quality or qualities that make a thing what it is, and the total of one's money and property. So the third one is probably more of what we would think of, right? More tangible things, where the first two are not necessarily physical stuff, but the quality or qualities that make a thing what it is. Some examples from Faith Part 1. The Israelites, when they were in bondage, they received word that they would be set free. Now this is over 400 years they were in bondage. They were slaves, and they were not being treated well. The Pharaoh thought that they were becoming too numerous. He felt threatened by them. Where did that come from? Whatever that man's level of faith was, he believed that they were a threat. Why? I don't know, maybe he had bad influences in his life, worshiping the wrong God, whatever it may be. Maybe he saw how God blessed them. He became concerned that maybe God would bless them and appoint them over him, not realizing they were just strangers in a strange land, and eventually they would go home. So The people, though, they believed when they heard this message from Moses and Aaron, right? And it says here that when they heard that the Lord had visited the children of Israel and that he had looked on their affliction, they bowed their heads in worship. So they received that message from Aaron and Moses, and they were glad and they worshiped. Some of Apostle Paul's examples, the belief that God created heaven and earth. Just believing in God in general. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation, talking about Jesus, right? So there's Jesus, but then there's the invisible God, right? Someone that we've never seen, right? But if we've seen Jesus, we've seen the invisible God, right? The average person believes there is a God, roughly 80%. This is just a simple internet Google search. Doesn't come from a textbook, Steve. But generally people do believe that there's a God, gods, whatever they believe in, right? They don't believe that, majority of people believe that we were created from, nothing, that, Big Bang, whatever you may think of, whatever it is. Majority of people believe in the existence of God. Some worldly examples of faith in action. When I was getting ready to do my 6-month deployment in the Marines, we get attached to an infantry battalion, right? And so part of that is you do these workups before you go on deployment. And part of it, we ended up going down to this battalion, this regiment's area to, I don't remember what it is, maybe get a brief or something. I don't recall this time. It was so long ago, but we had to show up to their unit, to their area. We're all in different areas. Myself, I was over in the Los Palos area of Camp Pendleton. This battalion was somewhere northern in Camp Pendleton. But what struck me is, as you're walking through the halls of the offices that they have set up, for the gunnery sergeant, the captain, and everyone, there's these hallways. They had these pictures, and there were pictures of service members who had fallen in battle but had received the Medal of Honor. And it went on to proceed to show their citation, where they were at, what conflict, and what they had done. And I don't recall the exact name and citation. I had just remembered that what this action this guy had done. So I went ahead and I Google searched, based on my search criteria to kind of find out, if I could find something similar. And this might have been the guy that I saw in the hallway. It could have been someone different, but the guy's name was, he was from 2nd Battalion, 1st Marine Infantry Regiment, the one that I had gone on deployment with. His name was Dwayne Thomas Williams, and basically, I'll just read the citation here. He saw that a grenade had landed close to where he was lying, and without hesitation, in a valiant act of heroism, rolled on top of the grenade as it exploded, absorbing the full and tremendous impact of the explosion with his body. Through his extraordinary initiative and inspiring valor in the face of certain death, he saved the other members of his patrol from serious injury and possible loss of life. And I just remember seeing that, thinking to myself, what is going through a man's mind to go ahead and to jump on a grenade like that? When we were in basic training, and Rick's probably the same with Army, right? You guys throw grenades at all? Yeah. I remember we were behind a concrete wall. You pull the pin, you throw it over, and that thing is just violently loud, and it shakes the ground. It's just crazy. I can't imagine someone diving on top of that. I mean, what was going through this man's mind? Some level of faith or something like, I'm just going to do the right thing. Well, why? Why are you going to sacrifice yourself? I mean, why not pick the grenade up and throw it? Why is your first instinct to land on it? Is it to save your fellow Marines? How was this man brought up? What was his level of faith? I have no idea. All we know is he gave up the ultimate sacrifice, gave up himself and saved his fellow man. And to me, I mean, that screams Jesus Christ, a man who gave up his life for all of us. You got to think, you got to stop and think, why would someone do that? And this is just a worldly example of faith in action. Some more examples. Yeah. I must have skipped one here, but let me see if I can go back here. Okay, skip the slide here. No, I'm good. Okay. So what are the actions of faith? I'd actually covered it.
It's okay, I know that problem to me. I experience it often. Where am I?
Yeah. What day is it? I didn't have the date on that. I had the second on there, 2nd of July. I'm not sure why I did that. Maybe it's next Sunday. But,
Which is not even.
Which is not July 2nd, but hey, whatever.
right, what is it? Yeah, I don't know why I did.
July 2nd is Thursday.
July.
Yeah, I guess you're thinking you're gonna come Thursday this week.
Oh, hey. Maybe the Lord will say, hey, the 2nd of July, you'll be here to preach this message to the masses.
Actually, we're doing Bible study.
Oh. Wrong. So how we show faith here at the place, right? We show it by showing up to church, right? We could stay at home. We could watch it online.
Z.
Or we could not watch it online.
Z.
So showing up to faith, or showing up to church, you know, there's a certain level of faith that requires you to do that.
That's right.
You know, praying for those in need. This is a tremendous one. This is probably one where, you know, maybe we don't think it requires a tremendous amount of faith, but here's the thing. Praying for people is great. And it doesn't take a whole lot of effort. Just dropping in, you know, those prayers that we do in the text, you know, it requires a level of faith. Paying for children's education through Child Hope. We've never met any of these children. Are they even real? Where is this money going to? Right? How much of the money is it, you know?
How many people have this child?
Yeah, exactly.
73 people are paying for this kid.
So Jill and I, we sponsor a couple kids, and we got a letter. We get a letter from them. We get maybe a couple letters a year. This last one that I just opened up the other day was talking about the gift, you know, because you give the education and you can give a little extra for the gift. So we gave a little extra for the gift, and they talked about, oh, I got clothes. We have a boy and a girl that we're sponsoring, so they talked about the clothes that we got this time. So, but there's a level of faith that we give the money to this organization. We trust that they're going to do the right thing with it, that the money is going towards their education. And so there's faith involved in that. So going on to another example, Paul describing the faith of Enoch. By faith, Enoch was taken away so that he did not see death and was not found because God had taken him. For before he was taken, he had this testimony that he pleased God. Not too much to go on there. I mean, what exactly does that mean? I guess we could draw some conclusions, whether or not they're factual or not, but he was probably living a righteous life, believing in God, doing the right thing in the face of other people, doing what they felt was right, doing what they felt like doing, which may not have been right, it may have been opposite of God's will. It's not uncommon. We've seen stories about this in the Bible. Ultimately, Noah's Ark and the flood was a culmination of men and women doing what they want to, and you know the level at which they were doing it, which was not pleasing to God, to say the least. And here Enoch is, here Noah was, men that believed in God and acted accordingly and showed their faith, exercised their faith by living a good and righteous life despite what everybody else was doing in their life. Because regardless of back then or now, we live in a time where people are doing the same thing that they were doing back then. And, some of it might be right, some of it might be wrong, some of it might be a little gray area, but what we do is based on our faith, right? Now, there are other things in life that we do that really have, they really don't have any spiritual implication. You know, what we eat for lunch, you know, or who, you know, just deciding to read this book over that book, really not so much, but, you know, the spiritual actions that we do, you know, that lead to life or death, you know, are based on our faith. What do you believe? We've got Abel's offering, you know, by faith. Why does Abel need to offer the best of his crops? What's the point? You know, in fact, I don't even believe there was any rule in Genesis or statute about giving up your crop. There was no tithe. No, I don't recall anything at this point. Abraham, there's a few examples, right? One of them being he was told to leave his country in one area. I did a quick Google search on it, and I didn't realize it, but they said the area that he was living in was kind of prosperous and well-to-do.
Very much so.
Like it wasn't a trivial thing for him to leave. So Brad knows. I wasn't aware of that. I just thought he went from Fallbrook to, you know, Redding, California.
Marietta.
To Marietta. Yeah, right? Yeah, it went from Fallbrook to Marietta, you know, slightly coastal to more desert.
No, he went from San Diego to El Centro.
To El Centro. Right. The faith that it took for him to believe that he was going to have a son, even though he was well advanced in years, he was in his 90s. Sarah, same thing. Well past childbearing age. The faith that he had that, you know, when God told him to bring him up to sacrifice his son, the belief and faith that if he went through with it, God could bring him back to life. Now, ultimately, he didn't have to do that, and I'm glad, because that, you know, that would be sad. But Abraham, once again, exercising his faith, you know, despite the circumstances and past experience and knowledge. Peter, walking on water with Jesus, right? Lord, call me out to you. Exercising faith for a moment, right? Eventually Peter started to sink when he saw, you know, probably some 15, 20-foot swell. He said, whoa, took his eyes off of Jesus and started to sink, and, you know, the Lord pulled him up. But still, Peter is the only disciple recorded that walked on water because he exercised his faith. So we'll go on to Paul describing the importance of faith, right? But without faith, it is impossible to please him, for he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. So let's kind of dive in a little bit to that. You know, what do you mean by diligently seeking, right? What does that mean? So let's talk about some faith in action, some examples. The woman healed from bleeding, right? Because she said to herself, if I only may touch his garment, I shall be made well. But Jesus turned around when he saw her and said, be of good cheer, daughter, your faith has made you well. So she had the faith to go in there, to press through the crowd, whatever it may be, and just touch the hem of his robe, right? Not come up and say, hey, Jesus, lay your hands on me, not make an appointment with Jesus, not wait till, you know, he was in a more intimate environment. She just walked right up and said, I'm going to touch this robe and I'm going to be healed. Daughter being healed from being demon possessed. So here, Jesus said, not a word, right? And his disciples came and urged him, saying, send her away, for she cries out for us, right? So this woman has probably been following the disciples for a little while, right? Been asking, right? It goes on. Jesus said, I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So then she came and worshipped him, saying, Lord, help me. But he answered and said, it is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the little dogs. So she was persistent. She kept going after him. She knew, she had faith that he could heal her. Maybe she had heard the stories of other demons being cast out, right? You hear the story, you still have to have faith that whoever it is can do what they said or do what they've done in the past. So she exercised faith. It doesn't go on, like I didn't put the verse in here, but we all know it goes on to say that, you know, she had great faith because she had asked for this thing, right? And eventually the demon left the, you know, was cast out, right? So we'll just talk about the importance of
Consistency?
consistency.
That's very important. Consistency.
How did they ask it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I looked it out. Okay, yeah.
Spell check?
Importance of faith and action in consistency. And we got a verse here, but let him ask in faith with no doubting, for he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For let not that man suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is double-minded, unstable in all his ways. So having faith requires being consistent, being steadfast, sticking to what you believe in and not wavering, right? Not like going back and forth like a wave, right? So let's talk about being steadfast or double-minded, right? Being like a wave or being firm, right? You've got the double-minded side. You got Judas, right?